Welcome, apprentices. Let's get right into this Red Seal exam prep explainer on Section 12-1000. If you're prepping for your Canadian electrical exams, you already know the rulebook can sometimes feel like a totally foreign language, but today, we're acting as your personal job site instructors. We're going to break down the rules for rigid and flexible metal conduit into really simple, logical steps. That way, when you sit down for that exam or step onto a busy job site, you know exactly what to do and, more importantly, why it keeps you and your fellow Canadians safe. Let's dive in.
Here is our class syllabus to get you Red Seal ready. We're covering 1. Conduit basics and sizing. 2. Cutting and threading. 3. Support and spacing. 4. Expansion and temperature. 5. A Red Seal practice exam. And 6. Revision and sign-off.
Section 1. Conduit Basics and Sizing. Navigating Rules 12-1000 to 12-1004. Okay, let's figure out exactly what conduit we're dealing with here, and just how small we can legally go. You see, the code is incredibly strict about pipe size. Pulling wires through a pipe that's too tight, that damages the insulation and creates a massive fire hazard.
Now, for your open book exam, time is everything. You need to navigate fast. Use these 3 steps to jump straight to the right rules. Don't waste precious minutes flipping pages randomly. Section 12 is your absolute Bible for wiring methods. Drill down to 12-1000, and right there you'll find Rule 12-1004. That is the exact rule examiners are going to use to test you on minimum pipe size. Notice the stark contrast here. Rigid needs watertight threads in wet spots, while flexible gets a very specific 1.5 meter exception. Think about a real job site. If you're running rigid pipe outside in the pouring rain, or maybe in a damp wash bay, Rule 12-1002 requires threaded, watertight joints. Why? Because water pooling inside your pipe is literally a recipe for a short circuit. On the flip side, flexible conduit gives us a little leeway for equipment connections, but with some very strict limits.
You'll definitely want to memorize this breakdown because examiners absolutely love testing that 16 trade size minimum rule against the 12 trade size flexible exceptions. The rule is simple. Generally, no conduit smaller than 16 trade size, period. But if you're connecting a piece of vibrating equipment, like a big motor, you are allowed to drop down to a 12 trade size flexible metal conduit. The catch? You can only run it for a maximum of 1.5 meters. That is a massive trap on the Red Seal exam. If a question tells you you're running 2 meters of 12 trade size flex, boom, you instantly know it's a code violation.
Section 2. Cutting and Threading Rules. Avoiding the traps in 12-1006 to 12-1008. Let's move on to threading. Bad cuts on the job site cause mechanical failures and dangerous arcing. Remember, when you cut and thread rigid pipe on site, you aren't just making a physical joint. You are literally building an electrical ground path. Sloppy threads mean a weak ground path.
3 complete threads. That is your magic number for field drilled and tapped boxes to ensure a secure, perfectly grounded connection. According to Rule 12-1008, if you're drilling and tapping a box on the job site, the wall thickness of that box has to be thick enough to bite into at least 3 complete threads of your conduit. If it's too thin, the pipe will just eventually rip right out, exposing live wires and completely destroying your bonding path.
Watch out for the running threads trap on the Red Seal. They are strictly prohibited because they ruin the taper and weaken the joint. Rule 12-1006 dictates that all threads must have a 1-16 taper. This taper is exactly what forces the pipe to wedge tightly into the fitting, giving you that watertight and electrically continuous seal. A running thread is cut totally straight with no taper at all, and it's a massive code violation. The only time, and I mean the only time, you can cut extra threads beyond the standard is if you need them to fit a bushing when pushing the pipe through an enclosure wall. Section 3. Support spacing and securing. Rule 12-1010 demystified. So, how do we actually strap this pipe to the wall without it sagging and failing in inspection? Hanging pipe correctly isn't just about making your run look pretty. It's about making sure the sheer weight of the metal, plus the wires inside, doesn't pull the whole rack down over time.
Let's build your job site intuition here. Here's your memory trick. As the pipe gets heavier, size up the spacing. Just think 1.5 to 3. For your smaller pipes, the 1/6 and 21 trade sizes, you have to strap them every 1.5 meters. Step up to the medium, 27 and 35 sizes, and you can stretch that out to 2 meters. Once you hit the heavy-duty 41 trade size and up, the pipe is so rigid it can actually support itself over longer distances, allowing for a 3-meter spacing. Easy, right?
Now here is exactly where the examiners try to trick you with a mixed rack job site scenario. What spacing do you use? Imagine you've got a flimsy 16 trade size pipe sitting right next to a massive 41 trade size pipe on the exact same unistrut rack. Do you use 1.5 meters? Do you use 3 meters? Do you just kind of split the difference? The answer? The smallest pipe is the boss here. You absolutely must use the 1.5 meter spacing for that 16 trade size to keep the entire rack up to code. Rule 12.10.10 Subrule 2 clearly states that in a mixed group, the maximum support spacing is dictated by the smallest conduit. If you try to strap that whole rack at 3 meters just because of the big pipe, that tiny 16 trade size pipe is going to sag, bend, and fail your inspection immediately. The weakest link always governs the rack.
For flexible pipe, strap it within 300 millimeters of a box, unless you're fishing it through a wall or need terminal flexibility under 900 millimeters. Look, flex conduit behaves kind of like a heavy metal snake, so you have to lock it down every 1.5 meters and right near the termination point, meaning within 300 millimeters. But the code is practical. If you're blindly fishing it behind drywall, obviously you can't strap it. And if you're terminating at a vibrating motor and the length is under 900 millimeters, you're permitted to leave it unstrapped so you keep that necessary flexibility.
Section 4. Expansion and Temperature. Protecting long runs. Rule 12.10.12. We all know Canada gets freezing cold and boiling hot, so let's look at how we protect long runs from literally tearing themselves apart. Rule 12.10.12 deals entirely with thermal expansion. Metal expands in the summer heat and contracts in the brutal winter cold. Over a long run on a commercial warehouse roof, that pipe is going to physically move inches. If you use expansion joints, you absolutely must install a bonding jumper so you don't lose your fault path when the pipe shifts. Think about it. When a pipe slides back and forth inside an expansion joint, that physical metal-to-metal connection breaks. If a wire shorts out inside that pipe right then, the breaker won't trip because the path to ground is gone. That means the whole pipe becomes a deadly live shock hazard. That is exactly why Rule 10-608 mandates a bonding jumper across the joint. Alternatively, if you're surface mounting, the code actually lets you use two 90-degree bends to absorb that movement naturally. Section 5. Red Seal Practice Exam. Rapid Fire Assessment. All right, apprentices, listen up. It's time for the crucible to test what we just covered. We've built the visual foundation, now we are going to pressure test it with actual Red Seal-style questions. Let's see if those memory tricks stuck with you.
Feel free to pause this explainer if you need to, but these first 5 questions hit the absolute most common minimum size and threading traps on the exam. Do you see the pattern here? Minimum general size is 16. The flex exception drops you to 12, but only for 1.5 meters. The thread taper must be 1 to 16 to guarantee it's watertight. Running straight threads, never allowed. And you always need 3 complete threads biting into that box for mechanical strength.
And this brilliantly illustrates how those support and expansion rules turn directly into quick, rapid-fire exam questions. Just think back to the 1.523 rule. A 21 size pipe gets 1.5 meters. A big 41 size gets 3 meters. In a mixed rack, the tiniest pipe makes the rules. Flex has to be strapped right up close, within 300 millimeters of the box. And if you want to avoid buying an expensive expansion joint on a surface run, use those two 90-degree bends to give the pipe some natural flex.
Don't let the word calculate scare you off. If the exam asks for the max distance between supports for a 35 trade size rigid conduit, just confidently apply the 2-meter rule. If they ask for the max length allowed for a 12 trade size flexible connection to equipment, you know it's that strict 1.5 meter limit. The Red Seal isn't going to ask you to do advanced calculus for these sections. They're just testing your ability to pull the exact right number out of a code rule based on the scenario.
If you face these troubleshooting scenarios on the job, just remember, you need 3 complete threads, and you can never, ever skip that bonding jumper. An inspector will fail a 2-thread box immediately because vibration will just rattle it loose over time. And an inspector will definitely fail an expansion joint without a jumper because you've essentially created an ungrounded, dangerous system on the other side of that joint.
Section 6. Revision and Final Sign-Off. Your Toolbox Summary. Let's see how all of this builds into our final toolbox summary before you head off to your exam. We've taken dense, legalistic code text and mapped it right onto real job site scenarios. Now we're going to distill it all down to the bare essentials. Lock this high-octane revision checklist into your brain right now. 16 minimum size, 3 threads for safety, the smallest pipe rules the rack, and 300 millimeters for flex near a box. If you can visually recall these key anchors during your exam, you will instantly bypass 4 of the most common pitfalls examiners use to trick apprentices. I want you to always remember this. Safety isn't just passing the test. It's ensuring the pipe you hang today doesn't cause a fire tomorrow. Understanding this code is about passing your Red Seal, sure, but ultimately, It's about keeping your job sites and your fellow Canadians safe. The CEC isn't just arbitrary rules. It's a document written in blood and ash to ensure that when we walk away from a job, it operates perfectly and safely for decades.
If this explainer helped you get exam ready, drop a like. Comment the hardest code rule you're currently facing, and hit subscribe so we can tackle the next section together. And hey, share this with your crew to make sure everyone on site is pulling their weight safely. Now, here's a final thought to leave you with. Next time you walk into a commercial building, look up at the exposed ceilings. Can you spot a code violation based on what you learned today? Keep your eyes sharp and stay safe out there.